What's going on, everybody? This your boy, Reckless Talk with the Jeremy G Podcast. Man, we have another amazing episode. It's a major honor to have him on here. This is episode 40, kicking it with motivational speaker, Christian Armstrong. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm blessed, brother. It's amazing to have you on here, and I'm ready to hear your story, man. I really am. But let's start with let's tell everybody where you're from.
So I'm from Vancouver, BC, Canada. Yeah, love it here. Beautiful. Go Canucks, go BC Lions. Big sports fan.
All right, that's awesome, man. I love Canada. My brother lives in Canada. He's in Halifax. No, he's in Dartmouth, actually. He's in Dartmouth. He lived in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He played for the Huskies, the St. Mary's Huskies. Played in the CFL. Now he does training for sports athletes, and he started his own semi-pro football league out there. So
that's awesome.
His name's Michael Brown. So big shout out to my brother doing big things for you in Canada. All right, man. How do you balance your public persona with your private life?
So right now, to be completely honest with you, I do not a great job with it. I'm still working at it a bit because right now I'm in the middle of working a 9-to-5 job in like construction and wall framing to pay my bills. But then I also come home and I send out emails and post on social media, just trying to get my speaking business going. But the only time I really find time out of all that is spending time with the odd friend, family, and just bunkering down and watching a few shows. Like that's when I need my personal time to just watch some Prime Video or Netflix, just to be, because I'm always on the go, always having something to do. So that's probably the biggest key, is because I'm a big advocate on mental health too, is taking that hour or two just to say I need to be.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. What would you say made you want to take this journey and become this motivational speaker for people that's autistic? What made you start that?
So, believe it or not, I was actually, before motivational speaking, I have a big background in acting, like theater, also film, and it was my dream to go to Hollywood, and it still is, to be honest. It still is my dream, but I think I was so dedicated, so focused on acting, and I got tired of the business aspect of acting, like, because the business is so, you're not good enough, don't like your looks, no, next. And
No.
I think it affected my mental health, and I know I need to walk away for a bit and maybe come back in a few years or so. But what made me have a big passion for my business and speaking is my business accepts everyone for who they are. Is I don't reject anyone. I don't go, thanks, next. I see people for their own individual strength and who they are. And I think the beautiful thing about my speaking business is I still get to be on stage. I still get to speak and be in front of crowds. And that's what I like. I like the adrenaline rush. And I like what my message brings. It's not all negativity like the acting business. It's all positive.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome, brother. Man, that's awesome. This is what this podcast is about, man. It's all about spreading positive messages. And like you just said, you before you started doing the motivational speaking, you've been doing acting. That just solidifies this even more, that this episode and your story needs to be heard. You know what I mean? People think because you're autistic, you're not smart or you can't do certain things. But a lot of people don't realize, like, you guys are some of the smartest people in the world, most creative people in this world. You know what I mean? It's amazing, and you know what I mean. Like this is awesome, brother. This is amazing, like, for real.
Oh, I really appreciate that. No, it's I've actually met a few people in my life who are also autistic, where their strength is math or sciences or history. So I've met a few of those people, but the beautiful thing about autism is, like, it doesn't have a look, and there's no certain specific thing. Like, I mean, yes, we all know that autism's brains, like, we all process information differently, than the average person, but your gift or your strength is totally different than anyone else. Like I always say, I truly believe I was blessed with the ability to create and perform. I think acting and performing and even motivational speaking was my gift that I was giving as an autistic individual.
No, that's awesome, man. That's man, I can't wait for my nephew to see this. I really can't. Every like I said, that my friend I mentioned earlier, I can't wait for him to see this. Like this is so uplifting. It really is. What legacy do you want to leave?
I want to be remembered for someone who can help literally anyone succeed, anyone that I can, because I remember when I was a kid growing up, going to elementary school and high school, where, you know, I see so many people doing the 9 to 5 jobs, going home, making dinner, going to bed, like retiring, having kids, and that's all they do. And if that's what you want to do, that's cool. That's great. If that's your life, so be it. But for me, it's like, man, life is so short. It's like, I don't want to just be settling for something, the casual life where people just settle for the 9 to 5 and have kids and that's all they do. I want to like collaborate with as many people as I possibly can, succeed with individuals like myself and yourself, and just say how, like, people always say, I know things like, oh, what's the minimum I can do in order to like just have a relaxing casual life. Like I always think, like, what's the max I can do? Like I want to push my limits to see how many people I can inspire, encourage, and you know what I mean, where I'm getting at?
Yeah, oh definitely, man. That's amazing, man. I did an episode a while back. It was one of my first episodes, and this goes into what you were just talking about. To me, it wasn't about how many views the episode got, which, don't get me wrong, it's doing amazing. It has 100+ views, right? But for me, for that episode, only thing that mattered to me, if it touched one person. You know what I mean? And that's the same expectation I'm having with this episode. Like I would love for this episode to blow up, and I'm pretty sure it will, you know? But my goal for this episode overall is to touch with that one little kid, that one adult that's going through the issues, thinking they can't do better or be as good as anyone or better than anyone, you know, and probably being bullied about it, you know what I mean? So this is awesome, man, for real. I like this. This is amazing. We definitely got to do some more stuff in the future.
Absolutely.
What's one thing you feel is most important people should know about people with autism?
I think the biggest thing people should know is, I always say this, like in almost every video speaking gig I do, every social media post almost, I say, stop, for the life of me, stop putting labels and stereotypes on people with autism. Just stop it. Like, I know with autism, because I was diagnosed with autism back in, I think, 2001. I was 7 years old. And back in 2001, people saw autism as a complete disability. Like, no one saw gifts in anybody's like, oh no, you're autistic. Like, live with your parents in their basement till you're 40, 50 years old. Like, you can't do a lot. No. But now it's like we see all these brilliant people coming in about autism, like being businessmen, like creating like the most brilliant paintings out there, just any gift there is. I always say the best thing to know about autism is you should really get to know the individual. Get to know the individual and who they are. Because at the end of the day, autism is just, it's a label. That's all it is. Get to know the person with autism.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say? Well, can you give us a time, a story of when you were like a kid and a time you had to go through something rough because of your autism, like people picking on you, and what made you overcome that?
Right. I will say I was very blessed in the sense that I don't think I experienced much bullying that I can remember as a kid. So I was very blessed in that sense. But I can remember some embarrassing moments for myself in school, because when I was in school at that time in my life, back in the early 2000s, I think I was the only autistic kid in school that the whole school knew of. Like now there's about 5 to 10, I think, at the school I graduated from, because, more people are getting diagnosed today. But no one really knew back what autism was. So for me being at school, I can remember the teacher asking me a question in front of the 20-25 students, and they'd say, "Christian, what's this question?" And of course, my brain can't process the information of the question. So I'm an honest person. I'll just say, "I don't know." And of course, the students who think this question's easy, how does he not understand it? They just all of them start laughing. So I feel like I'm being picked on in a way, laughed at. And I don't know if that's their intention, of course, but it's just like you're the one singled out in front of everyone. So.
And the fact that, like you said, you didn't really have to deal with being picked on much. That's a blessing, brother. That's a major blessing. Because as we both know, kids could be cruel. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They could say some things, and so that's awesome. But how do you handle criticism or negative feedback about what you do?
To be honest, the short answer for that is I know who I always stick back to go to, like, who am I? Well, I have a great story to share. I know what I'm doing is good. And at the end of the day, it's just opinions. That's the short answer. A bit of the longer answer is I actually have very sensitive feelings. So words do hurt, if I'm being honest with you, like any small thing, which is ironic because I'm in the speaking business in front of the crowds. But so it will affect me for a good few hours, but the thing that I always try and do is if it affects me, I go do something that I'm really passionate about, or something that, like, I might watch a funny sitcom because I love comedy. Or I always tell myself the big one is this going to affect me in 24 hours, a week, a month, a year? Like, I always go back at the end of the day, when I start asking myself those questions, I'm going to be okay the next day. So I always have to do that mental, like, inner talking to myself kind of therapy. That's how I deal with it.
That's a good answer. I like that. I definitely like that. Can you describe a moment when you felt you had that you made a real difference in your work, like through your work, shall I say?
Through my work, yeah. So as of course I'm just starting out, so I haven't been doing this for a ton of time, but one of the speaking gigs that I did a few months ago recently is what really spoke to me. Is there was about 2, 3, 4 students after my message personally came up, shook my hand, and they said, "Thank you so much. Your message meant the world to me. It helped me to keep an open mind about autism, and that we should look at individuals in a new way and not label." And I remember there was one of the kids who shook my hand and said, "I'm autistic. So you being autistic, sharing your message, that really spoke to me. And I'm going to take some of the things that you did and apply that to my own life." And hearing that from some of the students that I'm speaking to at this school, where I'm thinking, this is something I enjoy. I like to encourage. I like to inspire. Then I go do that and hear that feedback. It's like, man, this is why I do this. Like, yeah. The speaking is great because I love the crowds. I love the adrenaline rush, but that's a bonus. But being able to get that feedback, like, that's the true reason why I do that. And that was my revelation that day.
That's awesome. That's amazing. You mentioned doing your speaking the first. Can you explain how did it feel the first time you got up to speak in front of people?
I think it was definitely more nerve-wracking than the other speaking gigs I've done, for sure, because you're getting your feet wet. You've never done like a public speaking message. I mean, of course I've done public speaking, but never like been an official speaker that someone books for the first time. But to be honest, I mean, I'm not trying to sound prideful here, but it actually went way better than I ever expected. And I don't know if that's the acting background with me going into it, but I think maybe there's a bunch of speakers who don't have that acting background going into public speaking, where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, I don't know what to do. Where for me, it's like, okay, I'm used to the crowds. So me doing my homework and trying to put together my jot notes and memorize a bit of what I'm speaking about, it just went super good. So I was very grateful for that time.
That's pretty cool, man. So I can actually relate to what you were just saying. So I also have a theater background, and I've also about to be playing featuring in a movie. So I actually did my first motivational speaking gig last Friday, and
wow.
Like you said, it went way better than what you thought. Same here. I was nervous. Like before I started, I was super nervous, super nervous. But at the same time, I know I'm a people person. I can talk to people and I can speak in front of the crowd very well. But at the same time, I'm still nervous because I speak with young youth and teens. But it's like, as soon as I started talking to them, it came natural. And I felt the same exact way. Like it went perfectly well. Like I didn't think it was going to be so perfect. So that's not being prideful. That's just who you are. You know what I mean? Like this is what you love to do. This is your passion. So it comes with ease. Like there's still times I'll get nervous before an episode. And then as soon as the camera starts rolling, no problem, because this is what I love. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie. I was nervous for this episode. And not in a bad way, but in a way because like I was, number one, I was been looking forward to this episode. Number two, the fact that I had to reschedule you because we were supposed to do this yesterday, which was my fault. I double booked on a day, right? But also because of how big this message is, you know. But like I said, once the camera starts rolling, it's no problem. You know what I mean? So just keep doing what you're doing, brother. For real, like keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job. You really are.
I appreciate that.
How did you find me? That's my question. Because like this is my first show I've done with an international show, basically.
Honestly, it's gonna sound crazy, but I was going, like I was on Facebook, and then some of the sponsors, not sponsors, sorry, like the ads come up, and I think it was called Podcasting Guests, and what I do is I scroll through all the comments of what people have to say or want to talk about themselves or promote their podcast. And you were one of the people who came up in there, and I just said, thinking to myself, he's looking for some speakers. So I reached out to you, and I was just like, what do you know?
That is amazing. I didn't even know I could pop up on random things like that. That is awesome. Man, I'm glad. That's when I promote a lot. I promote a bunch. All day, every day, I'm promoting. Always looking for people that's doing something positive, that has a story they want to tell. Even my cousin, my cousin messaged me the other day and said, "Man, I see you everywhere on Facebook. Every post I'm on, I see you on. Like you're everywhere on Facebook, like trying to promote." And so the fact that you found me how you found me, that's awesome. That's good to hear. It really is. I'm glad you did. I'm not gonna lie. At first, I thought you was a scammer. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, who's this dude from Canada? But this is awesome, brother. It really is. What was the defining moment that you understood that this was your journey in life? Like out of everything you've been through, like you said, you've done acting, a few other things, theater. But when you was like, you know what, this is what I need to do.
I think, well, I always knew that, because I would say for about 5 to 10 years, my friends and family were always saying, Christian, you're so good at encouraging and motivating people. Like They would always say, every time you encourage a group or a couple people, we always feel like we're in like a sports arena and you're giving like a pep talk before a big game. Like that's what it feels like, they would say. So they would say, have you ever considered motivational speaking? And and at the time I said, no. Acting's my goal. Acting's my journey. I appreciate that. But I always had it in the back of my mind. I always thought about it. And then I think when acting it took a toll on my mental health for a bit, I started to ponder, I started to think. And then I remember a couple of years ago, I was going through a big phase of depression in my life, like just having a hard time motivating myself. So what I did is I started watching a couple YouTube videos of motivational speakers every single day, believe it or not. I started listening to these public speakers and just how they're saying, like, you think your life's done, you think it's over, you think you have nothing left in the tank. And that's kind of how I started processing more of like, okay, I have a story to tell, where slowly listening to these encouraging messages gave me this vision of I could be a speaker who speaks on autism. And I think that was the thing I was lacking in my life, is I was always thinking auditions, booking gigs and acting, and nothing wrong with that. But I think it was always the negative thoughts coming through. So I didn't have enough positive feedback and messages in my life. Mm-hmm. So now it's kind of just like, I love the positivity that speaking brings.
That's awesome. What would you say the age group that you speak to? What would you prefer, or does it matter really?
I would say the main age group would be high school, like grade 8 or 9 to 12. However, I do want to start doing some universities and colleges. But at the same time too, I'm open to speaking to anybody, because youth and teenagers are my target audience, but I don't like to pigeonhole myself and to be like, this is who I speak to. I firmly believe that this message is for anyone. I mean, even you're not in high school, but you're like, this guy has a message to share. I want to hear it. So it's like, this message, I say it honestly, it's for everyone. It doesn't matter, young or old. I think this message is for everybody.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Like you said, from the youngest to the oldest, everyone can learn something from this and be inspired from this. If you could look into the camera right now and give some inspirational words to someone going through a hard time that's autistic, what would you say to them?
I would say keep the faith. Like, I know right now you're thinking, I don't have a purpose, or he says or she says that I'm not good enough, or I can't graduate, or I'm just too weird. Take it from me, because I've been there. I've been in your exact shoes and what you're thinking right now. And sometimes I would say it sometimes takes 5, 10, 20, maybe even 30 or 40 years to get going on something you really love. But I will say this is, find that 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 things you love. It doesn't matter. It can be a couple things or just even one. Find that thing that you really love and just go for it. Because I always say, you don't have to be good at 10, 15 things like people always say. Oh, you have to be good at this. No, that's just that's society talking. Life is all about doing what you love. So find that passion within you.
I like that, man. I really, really do, for real. Oh, this is amazing, brother. One more question before we end this interview. What advice would you give to any up-and-coming anything, whatever they want, and the up-and-coming generation, whatever they are pursuing, whatever dreams they're pursuing, whatever goals they have, what advice would you give them?
I would say always keep an open mind, and never be afraid to to switch things around on the fly. Like I know a lot of people might be confused at what I'm getting at here is, I'll give an example with my story is, of course, with acting. I thought acting's my dream, acting is what I'm going for. And in a way, who knows? It probably could still be what I'm going for. Like if I was to get an acting role offered tomorrow, I probably would take it and look into it. Yes, for sure. But sometimes when you have that dream or goal, sometimes it's okay to say, I'm going to take a back seat and look into things that are similar in that area. Because if I didn't have if I wasn't humble enough to say I need to take a back seat to acting for a bit, well, then my business, Christian Motivates, my speaking business, probably never would have launched.
Yeah.
Always be willing to be open for other ideas for your career and your passion. Be open.
Awesome answer. Awesome answer. All right, one more. This time, one more for real. Who would you say are your biggest supporters?
Probably, there's so many.
Hey, name them all. We got time. Name them all. They all deserve a shout out.
Number one would have to be my mom and dad, because when I was a kid, you know, they were always like, we don't know how we're going to do this. You know, autism back in that day was just so looked down upon. But I wouldn't be where I am today if they didn't believe in me and what I'm doing. So mom and dad, if you ever see this, big shout out. Love you. And of course, I can't forget my wife. My wife really loves what I do, always supporting me. And of course, can't name every friend, but you know who you are. All my friends, you know, they're always asking me, have you booked any speaking gigs lately? Anyone bring you on your podcast, their shows, whatever. Friends, family, I could go on. You guys have been my biggest inspiration, and every single time when I thought about giving up or saying, I don't know if I can do this, you said, yes, you can, I believe in you. And that's the cool thing. That's the brilliant point about my message, and Christian Motivates, my business, is I always say, when others say you can't, I say, yes, you can.
Amen to that. I like that, man. I like that. Man, that's awesome. We're gonna end it just like that. That's awesome, brother. I know a few other people that have podcasts and have podcasts and other platforms. So I'll definitely reach out to them, and so we can get you on there and get your story heard all over the world, brother. For real.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, no problem, man. Whatever I can do to help. But this is how we're gonna end it. Episode 40, kicking it with motivational speaker Christian Armstrong, is a wrap, guys. H-Town, stand up. Man, I appreciate it, brother, and I wish you success beyond your imagination, man, and whatever you dream comes true, man, for real. I really, really do. All right, brother.